All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into Diarkis.
Oh, this should be fun.
Yeah, it's a decentralized multiplayer middleware
Right.
making waves in the gaming industry.
Absolutely.
Our listeners sent us a bunch of articles, a bunch of research on this. So,
That's great. We've got a lot to dig into.
yeah, we're going to break it all down and extract those golden nuggets.
That's what we do.
So, to start off, what is it about Diarkis that has you so excited?
Well, for me, it's all about how Diarkis tackles a really fundamental problem in online gaming.
Okay, what's that?
Limitations of traditional server architecture.
Yeah.
You know, those single points of failure.
Oh, yeah.
That can bring a whole game crashing down.
Ugh. Yeah, I've definitely experienced my share of...
Frustrating server outages, yeah.
So how's Diarkis approaching things differently?
Well, instead of relying on a single server,
Right.
Diarkis distributes the workload
Okay.
across a cluster of servers,
Okay.
all working together in a beautifully synchronized dance.
I like that. Okay, so...
It's like
yeah,
a team of synchronized swimmers. If one swimmer falters, the others just adjust seamlessly.
they keep the performance flowing.
Keep it going.
So if one server in the Diarkis cluster goes down,
Yes.
the others can pick up the slack without players even noticing.
Exactly. And you get incredible scalability, too, with this approach.
Okay.
So need more power.
Yeah.
Just add more servers to the cluster, you know?
Right.
Like adding more singers to a choir to make the sound even grander.
Ooh, that's a good analogy.
It is a good one.
Okay, so this is where my developer brain starts tingling a little bit.
Yeah,
It sounds incredibly robust and efficient,
it is.
but how does Diarkis actually handle all the communication between players and servers?
Well, Diarkis mainly uses what's called server relay synchronization.
Okay,
It relies on, the trusty protocols like UDP and TCP.
right.
So essentially, the server acts as a central hub, making sure there's smooth data exchange between players.
Okay,
Like an air traffic controller, right?
right.
Directing all the incoming and outgoing data packets to the right places.
So it's like a highly organized postal service
Exactly.
for game data.
Yeah.
Now, I've also heard Diarkis offers a peer-to-peer or PTP communication option.
Right.
How does that fit into all of this?
So P2P allows players to connect directly to each other.
Oh,
So
okay.
we cut out the server, middleman,
Uh-huh.
minimize latency,
Okay,
which is great for games that, require lightning-fast reflexes.
right.
Like first-person shooters, fighting games, that sort of thing.
Now, doesn't PDP come with its own challenges, though?
It does.
Like, dealing with NAT types?
Oh, NAT types can be a real headache.
Yeah,
Especially that tricky symmetric NAT,
right.
that often throws a wrench into things.
Yeah,
But Diarkis has developed some sophisticated techniques to overcome these hurdles.
okay.
It uses something called hole punching
Right.
to establish those direct connections, even when you've got those challenging NAT configurations.
Okay, so even with the most complex network setups, Diarkis can make PDP work seamlessly.
Yes. It's pretty impressive.
That's really impressive.
And just to make things even more robust, Diarkis has a fallback mechanism
Okay.
to server relay, right?
Okay,
So if a direct P2P connection can't be established, it just switches back.
so no matter what, communication stays rock solid.
Exactly. That's the goal.
So this all sounds amazing.
It is.
I'm also wondering about the practical side of things.
Of course.
How do developers actually use Diarkis to build their games?
Well, that's where the Diarkis modules come into play.
Okay.
Each module is like a specialized tool, right, for a specific multiplayer functionality.
So what modules are we talking about?
Well, you've got Matchmaker
Okay.
for finding and connecting players. You've got Room
Okay.
for creating virtual spaces.
Mhm.
You've got Field for, massive shared worlds.
Okay.
You've got Session for persistent gatherings, DM for private messaging,
Okay.
Notifier for global announcements,
Right.
and then, of course, P2P for direct communication.
Wow. Okay, that's a whole toolbox.
It is a whole toolbox of multiplayer goodness.
Yeah. All right, well, let's dive into some of these modules and see how they work their magic.
Let's do it.
First up, let's talk Matchmaker.
All right.
What makes Diarkis' approach to matchmaking so special?
Well, traditional matchmaking systems, they often rely on databases,
Right.
which can be slow, cumbersome, especially when you're dealing with a large player base.
Right.
Diarkis takes a different approach. It leverages shared memory across the entire server cluster.
Okay.
So you get lightning-fast performance.
Wow.
And we're talking a staggering number of searches per second.
Compared to traditional methods.
Exactly.
That's a huge difference.
It is.
But how does shared memory actually work in this context? Can you break that down for us?
Okay, so imagine the entire server cluster as a giant whiteboard, right, where each player's matchmaking data is written,
All right.
and all the servers can access and update this whiteboard
Okay.
at the same time.
Simultaneously.
Yes, so we eliminate the need to query a separate database.
So it's like a super efficient bulletin board
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
where players can post they're looking for a match ads.
Exactly.
And then the servers can instantly find the perfect match.
That's right.
Now, Diarkis takes things a step further by allowing for real-time communication during matchmaking.
Right.
So what does that look like?
Players can chat with each other.
Okay.
Strategize,
Mm-hmm.
even customize their characters together while they're waiting for a match to start.
That's awesome. Adds a whole new layer of social interaction to the whole process.
Absolutely.
And is there more?
There is more. Diarkis Matchmaker also has backfill capabilities.
What does that mean?
So players can seamlessly join games that are already in progress.
Okay.
And it supports team matchmaking.
Oh, wow.
Makes it easy to, form groups
All right.
and compete.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so this Matchmaker module is sounding incredibly versatile and powerful.
It is.
It seems like Diarkis has really thought of everything.
They've done a great job.
They really have.
But let's not forget about the other modules, each with its own unique capabilities.
Of course not.
So next up, let's explore how Diarkis creates those virtual spaces where players can interact using the room module.
All right, let's step into a Diarkis room.
Let's go!
And see what's inside.
I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
It is.
Okay, so we've matched up our players.
Yes.
Using the super efficient Diarkis Matchmaker.
Right.
Now, where do they actually go to interact and play together?
Right.
I'm picturing some kind of virtual hangout space.
Yeah, you're on the right track. That's where the Diarkis room module comes in.
Okay.
Think of it as a digital gathering place.
Okay.
A virtual room where players can connect, exchange data in real time.
So it's like a virtual game room.
Yes.
Where players can, meet up and start playing.
It's important to remember that a Diarkis room isn't a dedicated game server itself.
Okay.
It's more like a communication hub,
Right, I see the distinction.
within the Diarkis ecosystem.
Okay.
A space for real-time data exchange.
So what kind of things can players do within a Diarkis room?
So inside a room, players can send messages to each other.
Okay.
They can share properties, and they can even synchronize objects, all in real time.
Okay.
It's like a virtual tabletop.
Yeah.
Where everyone can see and interact with the same game elements simultaneously.
I'm picturing a group of friends playing a virtual board game.
Right.
Moving pieces around and seeing each other's actions instantly.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
But what if you wanted to create a more expansive, persistent world?
Yes.
Something beyond the confines of a single room.
That's where the Diarkis Field module comes in.
Okay.
Field takes the concept of shared space to a whole new level.
Right.
It creates a persistent world that can span multiple servers.
Wait, so players on different servers can actually interact with each other seamlessly within a Diarkis field?
Yes.
How did it even work?
I know. It's a bit mind-bending.
Yeah.
So imagine a VAT online world, like a massive multiplayer online role-playing game.
Right, an MRPG.
MRPG, exactly. In a traditional setup, you might have separate servers for different regions or instances of the world.
Right.
But with Diarkis Field, the boundaries between servers just dissolve.
So you could have players from all over the world on different servers, all coexisting and interacting within the same persistent game world.
Exactly. And here's the really cool part.
Okay.
The system's designed to handle scalability dynamically.
Oh, okay.
So as more players join, Diarkis can seamlessly add or remove servers.
Oh, wow.
From the field without interrupting the player experience.
It's like the world is constantly expanding and contracting.
Yeah, it is.
To accommodate the number of players.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
It's pretty neat.
So it sounds like Field is perfect for creating those truly massive, persistent online worlds that we see in games like World of Warcraft or EVE Online.
Exactly.
But what if you want to create a smaller, more focused gathering within that larger world?
That's where the Diarkis session module comes in.
Okay, so sessions are like subgroups or clubs.
You could think of it that way.
Within the larger field.
Yeah, sessions allow players to create and join multiple sessions of different types.
Right.
It's like having different channels or chat rooms, right?
Okay.
Within a larger online community.
So you could have a session for trading, a session for questing, a session for just hanging out and chatting.
Yeah, exactly.
All within the same overall game world.
Precisely.
Okay.
And each session can have its own set of rules, features, access controls.
So it's a really flexible way to organize players.
It is.
And facilitate different types of interactions.
Absolutely.
So I can see how sessions would be incredibly useful for developers.
Right.
Giving them fine-grained control over how players interact and group up.
Exactly.
But how do sessions differ from rooms?
Right.
They seem to offer similar functionality.
You're right. There are some similarities.
Okay.
But there are also some key differences.
Okay.
So sessions are generally designed for larger groups.
Okay.
And more persistent interactions.
All right.
Think of a guild in an MMORPG or a clan in a first-person shooter.
Okay.
Rooms, on the other hand, are better suited for smaller, more transient gatherings.
Okay.
Like a group of friends playing a quick match of a card game.
So it's about choosing the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
If you need a persistent gathering place
Right.
for a large group, sessions are the way to go.
Right.
If you need a smaller, more temporary space
Right.
for real-time interaction, rooms are a perfect fit.
You got it. And there's one more important distinction.
Okay.
Sessions typically have slightly higher latency compared to rooms.
All right. And why is that?
This is because session data may need to travel across multiple servers.
Right.
Whereas room data is usually confined to a single server.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you need super low latency, a room would be the better choice.
Yes.
But for larger, more persistent groups, the slight increase in latency with sections is probably not a big deal.
You've got it. Now let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
And talk about a module that's all about those one-on-one conversations.
Okay.
The Diarkis DM,
Right.
direct message module.
Okay, this sounds intriguing.
It is.
So is this how players can whisper secrets to each other in the game world?
You could say that.
Okay.
The DM module allows players to send private messages to each other.
Okay.
Regardless of whether they're in the same room or session. It's like a virtual text messaging system.
Okay.
Built right into the Diarkis ecosystem.
I could see how this would be useful for, coordinating strategies, trading items, or just staying in touch with friends within the game.
Absolutely.
But how does DM actually work behind the scenes?
Yeah.
Does it use P2P for those direct connections?
So DM actually uses a server relay system, which means the messages are routed through the Diarkis server cluster.
Okay.
It's not quite as fast as P2P,
right,
but it's still pretty speedy and reliable for those one-on-one conversations.
So even though it's not P2P, it's still a fast and efficient way for players to communicate directly with each other.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It does.
Now, before we move on to the next module,
I
have a question that's been bugging me.
Okay, what is it?
We've talked a lot about, matchmaking, creating these virtual spaces where players can interact. But what about those moments when a game developer needs to communicate with all the players at once?
Yes.
Like for server announcements, updates, that sort of thing.
That's a great question.
Okay.
And it brings us to a module that's often overlooked, but plays a really vital role in many online times.
Okay, which one is that?
The Diarkis notifier.
The notifier, okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this notifier.
All right.
What makes it so special?
So imagine you're a game developer.
Okay.
And you need to send a message to every single player connected to your Diarkis server cluster.
Okay.
Right.
That sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It can be.
Especially if you have thousands or even millions of players online.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In a traditional setup, it would be a huge challenge. You'd need a ton of server resources.
Right.
And even then, you'd likely run into delays.
Yeah.
And all sorts of technical headaches.
So how does Diarkis handle this mass communication challenge?
Well, that's the beauty of the notifier module.
Okay.
It leverages Diarkis's unique architecture to send these mass messages quickly and efficiently without bogging down the servers or introducing any noticeable delays.
So it's like having a global PA system that can instantly reach every player in the game world.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Think about the possibilities.
Yeah.
Announcing special events.
Right.
Sending out server maintenance notifications.
Right.
Even triggering global in-game effects.
Okay.
All with a single message.
I could see how this would be a game changer for developers.
It is. It is.
Giving them a powerful tool to communicate with their player base.
Right.
But I have one more question.
Okay.
Is this notifier a two-way street?
Ah, good question.
Can players send messages back to the server through it?
So the notifier is actually a one-way communication system.
Okay.
It's designed for those server-to-client broadcasts.
Got it.
Not for facilitating player-to-player conversations.
So it's like a one-way announcement system.
Exactly.
Not a chat room.
Yeah.
But for player-to-player interactions,
right,
we have all those other fantastic modules that we've already discussed.
Exactly.
Each module has its own strengths
right,
and is designed for specific use cases.
Yeah.
It's all about choosing the right tool for the job.
It is.
This is making me think about all the different ways developers could use these modules to create amazing online experiences.
They can.
We've got matchmaking, virtual rooms, persistent worlds,
right,
private messaging, global announcements.
Yeah.
It's like a whole ecosystem.
It is.
For building rich and engaging multiplayer games.
You're getting it.
Yeah.
And there's one more module we need to revisit.
Okay.
P2P.
Okay.
We touched on it earlier, but let's dive a little deeper into how Diarkis makes this direct communication magic happen.
I'm all yours.
Okay, good.
P2P is always fascinating to me.
It's really cool technology.
Yeah, especially how Diarkis handles those tricky NAT scenarios.
Right.
So let's get back to the world of direct connections.
All right, let's do it.
And low latency.
All right,
let's get back to P2P.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that Diarkis uses this technique called hole punching to establish those direct connections.
Yes.
Can you unpack that a bit more for us?
Sure.
It sounds like magic.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more technically intricate aspects.
Okay.
But I'll try to keep it simple.
All right.
So when you're behind a NAT,
Right.
your device doesn't have a public IP address
Right.
that's directly visible to the outside world.
Okay.
So that makes it difficult for two devices to find and connect to each other directly.
Right, because they're essentially hidden
They are.
behind these NAT firewalls.
Yeah, exactly.
So how does hole punching solve that?
So imagine you're trying to connect with a friend who's also behind a NAT.
Okay.
Hole punching involves both of you sending packets out to a publicly accessible server.
Okay, so both devices are announcing their presence to this external server. But how does that actually help them connect to each other?
So by analyzing the responses from this server,
Okay.
both devices can figure out how to punch a hole through their respective NAT firewalls,
Oh, okay.
creating a path for direct communication.
So it's like they're both poking holes in their walls.
Yes.
At just the right spots.
Exactly.
So their communication lines can meet in the middle.
That's a great way to put it.
That's pretty ingenious.
It is, and Diarkis has implemented its own version of a reliable UDP protocol called Written-P.
Okay.
To ensure that those data packets traveling through the hole arrive in order and without any loss.
So it's like having a guaranteed delivery service.
It is.
For those P2P messages.
Right, no lost packages or jungled orders.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, what if hole punching fails for some reason?
Good question.
Does Diarkis just give up on P2P?
Not at all. Remember that fallback mechanism we talked about earlier?
Right.
If a direct P2P connection can't be established,
Yeah.
Diarkis gracefully switches back to server relay.
So it's like Diarkis has a backup plan for its backup plan.
Exactly. Always thinking ahead.
I love it. This is why I love diving deep into these technologies.
Me too.
There's always something new and fascinating to discover.
Absolutely.
Speaking of diving deeper, did you know that Diarkis provides a server template on GitHub?
They do.
For developers to get started.
Yeah, it's a great resource.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing that in the materials you sent over.
Right.
What's included in this template?
It's basically a starter kit
Okay.
for building Diarkis-powered applications.
Okay.
It has minimal configurations,
Okay.
built-in scalability, and even comes with tutorials on launching the server and confirming connectivity.
So it's like a pre-built foundation.
It is.
That developers can use to quickly get their Diarkis project up and running.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
It is.
Now, for those who want to explore the inner workings of the Diarkis matchmaker in more detail, there's a document that breaks down its internal mechanics.
There is.
I'm always curious to see how things work under the hood.
Me too.
So what are some of the key insights from that document?
Well, you learn that the matchmaker is actually composed of two main components.
Okay.
Control servers.
Okay.
And storage servers.
Division of labor, I like it.
Yeah.
What do these different servers do?
So the control servers are responsible for handling connections from user clients.
Okay.
Like traffic cops,
Right.
directing all the incoming and outgoing data.
So the control servers manage the connections.
Yes.
The storage servers manage the data.
Exactly.
Makes sense. But how does the matchmaker actually find matches so quickly?
So one of the key tricks is that it replicates candidate data across multiple storage servers.
Okay.
Ensuring redundancy and lightning-fast retrieval.
Got it.
It also uses a clever search algorithm
Okay.
that can scan through millions of candidates per second
Wow.
to find the perfect matches.
Okay, that's some serious matchmaking power.
It is.
Sounds like Diarkis has really optimized this process.
They have.
For speed and efficiency.
Absolutely.
And once a match is found,
Yes.
the game application itself gets to approve it before it's finalized.
Right.
So Diarkis is acting as a matchmaker.
Yeah.
But the ultimate decision lies with the game developers.
Exactly.
That's a good balance of power.
It is.
Diarkis provides the tools,
Right.
but the developers retain control over their game logic.
Absolutely.
This has been an incredible deep dive into Diarkis.
It has been.
We've covered so much ground, from its decentralized architecture
Right.
to its versatile modules,
Yeah.
and even its ingenious approach to P2P communication.
It's fascinating technology.
It really is.
Yeah.
Now, for our listeners out there who are buzzing with ideas
I hope so.
and eager to start building their own Diarkis-powered applications,
Yes.
what are some resources they can check out?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, the Diarkis server template on GitHub is a great starting point.
Yep.
And there's a wealth of documentation and tutorials available on the Diarkis website.
Fantastic. So to wrap things up,
Okay.
here's a thought-provoking question for everyone to ponder.
All right, let's hear it.
Now that you understand the power and flexibility of Diarkis,
Right.
what kind of game-changing applications could you create? The possibilities are truly limitless.
They are.
They are.
Absolutely.
And we'd love to hear your ideas.
We would.
Feel free to share your thoughts and creations with us on social media.
Yes, please do.
Who knows, maybe your next big idea will be powered by Diarkis.
That would be awesome.
This has been an amazing journey.
It has been.
Into the world of decentralized multiplayer middleware.
I've enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
My pleasure. HTT.